Oh my days. I cannot believe what I had just saw and witnessed. Manchester United did Manchester City and Aston Villa apparently now the ultimate favor by upsetting, and I don't even know if I could call it an upset honestly, but they got the job done against Arsenal. They took 3 points off of the Gunners tonight, and I wasn't expecting this at all. I really wasn't. It was more so of a deep hope. I was hoping desperately for Manchester United to be able to do something against Arsenal tonight, and glory to Bast, they have done so. They have taken 3 points off of Arsenal. They made Arsenal look very desperate, right? After Manchester United went 2-1 up, Arsenal made 4 substitutions immediately to try to respond to that and pull the game back into their favor. Yeah, man, I gotta give massive credits to Manchester United today because the game plan worked perfectly for Michael Carrick, and by no means did it look pretty, so to say. The opening 30 minutes of the match, Manchester United looked awful in possession of the ball, and that was kind of expected. You know what I mean? I don't think coming into this match against Arsenal, the game plan was always going to be much different as opposed to what the game plan was when they went into the match against Manchester City last weekend, right? Because let's be honest, Manchester United, it was the perfect time for them to go up against Manchester City because it's a Manchester City team that has a shit defense, right? They lost 2 of their best center backs. Rodri, not necessarily up to the mark, still needs some time in order for him to get back to his absolute best. Erling Haaland has simmered down immensely. Phil Foden as well, his spark has kind of simmered down just a bit over the past month and a half. So it was the perfect chance. It was the perfect timing for Manchester United to face Manchester City. And on Manchester City's end last weekend, since it was Michael Carrick's first match in charge of United, it was difficult for City to prepare for that match because there was no way of knowing or telling how Manchester United could play or how they were going to set up, in their preparation for that Manchester derby. But anyway, yeah, back to this match against Arsenal. Absolutely amazing. The game plan was always going to be different, right? They were always going to sit deep and try to, catch Arsenal on a surprise, right? And look, let's not get it twisted. All of Manchester United's goals today, absolute worldies, barring the first one. But Dorgu, oh my gosh, take a flipping bow. What a sensational strike. There were claims for handball, and allow me, bro. Nah, no handball there. VAR even said it was fine, but that strike was just absolutely magnificent. Right, and then as soon as Dorgu scores that one, Mikel Arteta goes into, I don't want to say a panic mode, but he made 4 substitutions immediately after going 2-1 down. All right, to try to get the game back into their favor. So as much praise as I want to give Manchester United, we have to be real now. With this loss, coming into this match, Arsenal drew 2 of their last Premier League matches. So that is now 3 Premier League matches without a win. And, you look at the whole context of everything. They had chances before today, right? They had chances to expand the gap between themselves and City. Because City would play first, City dropped points, whatever happened. You know what I mean? Arsenal had the chance to expand the lead, and they didn't take those chances. They didn't. Right, they managed to keep the gap as close as it has been. Right, they could have gone 9 points clear last weekend, and they didn't. So that's 2 matches where they drew coming into this game, and now they lost. So it begs the question: you gotta ask it: are Arsenal about to bottle this league? Because if they are, it is going to be a bad shout for Mikel Arteta. Right, not being able to get past the line. And look, I think with the way, and especially in the past month, drawing those 2 matches and then losing today, I think if history has told us anything, is that the signs are kind of there that they might be bottling it, right? City got their win yesterday, and yes, it was against the worst team in the league, but with this result today, that could put City into a whole new gear. And don't get me wrong, City still have loads of things that they need to work on if they actually want to, close this gap and get level on points with Arsenal. But it gives us a chance. It does. Honestly does. So as much as I want to praise Manchester United for their performance today, absolute beautiful strikes by Dorgu and Cunha and everything, like, ultimately, how much of it comes down to it just being a horrible Arsenal performance? You know what I mean? Because they didn't really offer anything. They didn't offer much going forward, right? They did get a set piece goal, which again is kind of on brand for them this season and everything. But I don't think that Manchester United were extremely hard, at least on the eye, right? Watching from the TV, I don't think that they looked extremely difficult to break down. I don't think that United were playing with such a immense low block, and just committing 10 bodies behind the ball to try to defend. No, I think there were chances where Manchester United sat deep, but I don't think that they were parking the bus completely. It wasn't even until Arsenal took the 1-0 lead that Manchester United kind of stepped it up a bit. They went down and then they kind of started applying more pressure and started playing expansively, right? And in Mbeumo's goal, massive mistake by, who was it? Was it Hincapie? No, or Zubamendi? I don't even remember. But a costly error across the back line that led to Mbeumo equalizing for Manchester United. Like, Arsenal clearly shooting themselves in the foot and then not necessarily being able to kind of deal with it, respond to it, or anything. So given all that, how much of it comes down to just Arsenal really bottling it, right? And putting themselves in a stressful situation, right? Because now, again, they could have expanded the lead at the top, right? We were 4 points clear. They could have expanded it to 7. But the gap now stays at 4 with this loss. And I said yesterday after the City match, if Manchester United could take something away from Arsenal, get the upset win, this would be a good weekend for City because it keeps the gap at just 4 points. And we are in with a shot. We're just an arm's length away. And that's all City need, bro. We have seen numerous times, right? You give City an inch, we'll take a flipping mile. We will. So I could see the tide shifting. I absolutely can, with Marc Guéhi coming in, with Antoine Semenyo coming in, with Omar Marmoush back into the side, with Doku back fit as well. Like, I can definitely see the tide shifting, So, yeah, I want to know, Arsenal fans, how are you guys feeling about this? Because leading up to this match, over the past two results before today, there were a lot of criticism from Arsenal fans on Arsenal kind of being very toothless, not taking their chances to expand the gap or anything. Like, I can understand where that sentiment is coming from. But at the same time, you're still first place. You've maintained first place for a really long time, for a majority of the season. There's still a comfortable gap. Yes, it could have been 9. And at that point, you could pretty much, from my perspective, if you're not Arsenal and you're City and Villa and whoever that does want to play catch up and are considered actual title contenders, if you're 9 points behind, then it's psychologically, you're just like, yeah, that's kind of it, right? You know what I mean? Fair play to Arsenal. But 4 to 6 points, that's still a very comfortable gap. That's a comfortable cushion to have. I can't even lie. I mean, let's look at the next round of fixtures. Let's look at the next round of fixtures for City. I mean, I know we have Spurs next weekend. I know that. Let's see. All right, so Galatasaray in the Champions League at midweek, Spurs next weekend, and then Liverpool. So, I mean, look, let's be realistic, right? And I'm saying this as a City fan as well. Spurs, although, yes, Spurs are in horrible form right now. They've been performing terribly and very disappointingly all season. They still beat us at the beginning of the season. They beat us back in August, right? and they beat us bad. They beat us good. I mean, they got us back in August, right? So, and there's also this Spurs voodoo. Whenever City go play at their new ground, we don't have the best record over there, right? So psychologically speaking, that could kind of factor in, right? And on the other hand, yeah, it could also factor in on a positive end that Arsenal bottled it this weekend. But still, I don't like our chances against Spurs because Spurs always somehow find a way to. It was like last weekend with United. Of course, Manchester United come into switch it on against us, right? Typical. Right? I kind of feel the same way about Spurs. Even when Spurs are having the worst season possible, of course. I mean, look at last season as well, right? Spurs, horrible. What, they finished 17th? They finished 17th last season and they battered us at home. What, 4-1 or 5-1 or something like that? I don't really remember, but it was embarrassing. So even then, against City, Spurs always, they want to be on some Fugazi type time. You know what I mean? But then even after that, having to face Liverpool, who again, not necessarily on the mark this season either. They lost yesterday at the last minute against Bournemouth. But it's against City. Historically speaking, Liverpool have always outdone us. Always. In my time watching City, in my time supporting City, we have always struggled against Liverpool. So that one's going to be a tough one as well. So, look, I know I'm a City fan. I'm definitely, I want Arsenal to bottle it because I want City to win it, obviously, right? But I do have to be realistic. As much as we could all, pounce on Arsenal for missing this opportunity yet again for a third Premier League match week in a row, right, where they're not getting the result that they need to expand the gap, right? If you look at City's next run of fixtures, the next two matches, with it being Spurs and Liverpool, if you're Arsenal, you're kind of thinking, hey, man, we might be all right. We might be all right. Because now let's look at Arsenal's next two fixtures. After Liverpool, City do have Fulham. And, I mean, we saw what happened last time, right? 5-4. We let slip a 5-1 lead. You know what I mean? So let's look at Arsenal's next run of fixtures and see, because maybe Arsenal don't really have much to worry about, to be fair. Okay. Karat in the Champions League, they could definitely rotate. Leeds United on Saturday, and then Sunderland after that in the league, and then Brentford. So, look, Leeds, Sunderland, and Brentford. I mean, compare that to City's next three run of fixtures. Is there really much to worry about? And yeah, Sunderland, out of those three, I'm not going to say that they're easy fixtures because they are difficult fixtures. Leeds have definitely come into their own and have turned their season around. Sunderland have had an amazing season. And they gave Arsenal a really tough match in the reverse fixture earlier on in the season, right? But Sunderland are kind of going through a down period right now. They've have loads of missing players through AFCON. AFCON is over now, but I'm pretty sure they lost yesterday to West Ham, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really remember. I'm not going to look back at the result, but they didn't get 3 points yesterday. I know that, right? And then Brentford have been performing really well this season as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a tricky match. But in comparison between Spurs and Liverpool, I would argue that City definitely have the tougher of the next three fixtures. And then Fulham as well. And then, again, we saw what happened with Fulham last time out. So, yeah, I don't know. Arsenal, you guys might be okay. You guys really might be okay. But at the same time, this was the first match this season that Arsenal had their absolute full squad available. No injuries, every player was available. So yeah, man, I get the worry, I really do, but if you kind of take a second to maybe just calm down and look at the bigger picture here, There's still a 4 point gap, which is it's comfortable enough. You know what I mean? And the next three fixtures, although yes, they're going to be tough, 100%, and you do have to show up for them. Compare it to City, and you guys might be chilling. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I do think it's funny though that Manchester United were able to kind of, new manager bounce always seems to be in favor of Manchester United every single time, and that's always going to be ridiculous to me. But anyway, Aston Villa got the job done against Newcastle earlier today as well. 2-0 against them at St. James's Park. It was a really good match, in my opinion. It was nice and entertaining. Very sloppy at times, but overall, I thought it was a good match. I think both teams offered a lot going forward for their respective clubs and stuff like that. The battle was more so in the midfield. It was definitely a good midfield battle, 100%. And then ultimately, when it comes down to it, Newcastle just weren't clinical enough, because in the second half, it was definitely all Newcastle, and they just weren't good enough to really capitalize on any chances that may have arisen. They weren't creating many chances, but they definitely had moments where they could have made more than what they actually did with what they had. So yeah, and then Ollie Watkins late into the second half, like around like the 80th, within the 80th minute, 80 to 90th minute, somewhere in that time frame, sealed the deal, scoring it to make it 2-0, right? And Emiliano Buendia had a lovely strike in the first half to put Aston Villa up 1-0. Beautiful. So yeah, Villa now level on points with City with that win, 4 points behind Arsenal as well. And I do kind of want to touch on, I guess, what's his name? Good evening. Unai Emery's. I do want to touch on Unai Emery's kind of like behavior as of late. People were, making a huge fuss about his behavior towards Tielemans in the Europa League the other day with, after Tielemans was getting subbed off and Unai Emery kind of like pushing him or anything. I feel like you guys are just making a meal out of it. And then the other week kind of like going, into a press conference or at an interview saying that Aston Villa they can't be considered title challengers. They're not even challengers for a top four finish. And I feel a lot of people are kind of like digging into that and kind of making a rut about that. But I mean, I kind of want to give Unai Emery some props because, I mean, let's face it, with what he's got, he is doing an absolutely amazing job. We can't deny that. For him to be sitting in third place, level on points with City, just 4 points behind first place, and then there's a big gap. Not big, but there is a nice gap between third and fourth place, right? Like, top three is definitely going to finish with, not in any particular order, but the top three is going to consist of Arsenal, City, and Villa, right? Like, that's the guaranteed three from now to the end of the season, with the gap that there is between third and fourth place. So the fact that he is able to be sitting in third place right now is with the squad that he has, with the resources that Aston Villa have, is absolutely incredible, right? Like, that needs to be studied. And I think it's a huge testament to how good of a manager Unai Emery actually is. Right? Like, I don't think that can go unnoticed. That can't go unnoticed, like, whatsoever. You know what I mean? But at the same time, for all that praise, I do feel like I see where he's coming from. He does have a point. Because, let's face it, Villa aren't City. They aren't Arsenal. They aren't Manchester United, although, yes, they are a better squad than Manchester United and a better squad than Chelsea and a better squad right now than Liverpool. At the same time, they're not those clubs. They don't have the buying power of these clubs. They don't have the buying power of a top six club. They just don't. In order to buy, they have to sell. It's a horrible cycle. It's a horrible place to be in if you're not a top six club, right? In order to actually compete in this league, you have to have money. And it's a shame, and it goes to show. Although yes, I do think that the Premier League as a whole, with like all the teams in the Premier League, they have way more buying power than any clubs in Europe, right? Like, still, the distribution of wealth within the Premier League and within England is insane, right? So like that's why a lot of these mid-table clubs that actually have really good squads and could compete, that's why they have like one-off seasons, and then they overachieve, they shock somebody, whatever, and then there's no sustainability whatsoever because they can't constantly be buying players, right? They have to sell, right? I mean, look at Crystal Palace, for example, right? Like last season, that was the best season in their club's history, and they've lost all of their best players, and they're about to lose the best manager that they've ever had, right? Like they are a club that buys cheap and sells high, right? Like they bring really great potential players in there, and then those players develop, and then they get sold to better teams, right? Like that's the cycle for a lot of these clubs. So I see where Unai Emery is coming from in those statements, right? Because he's only like what, a couple. He's like one to three injuries away from completely falling off, right? McGinn is out for a while. If Onana gets injured, if Kamara gets injured, like there is no squad depth, right? Like you lose all these key players, or you lose enough key players at the wrong time, bro, they could fall off massively. So I understand what he's saying, but I'm not gonna lie, if City's not going to win the league, the fact that Villa is in the place that they're in right now, I do want them to win the. If it's not gonna be City, I would much rather it be Villa. I would much rather it be Villa for the story, right? For the underdog story. If Villa weren't in this situation and City weren't going to win the league, I would be more than happy with Arsenal winning the league, right? Because, again, it's another great story as well. Mikel Arteta, having been at City before under Pep, like I definitely would root for him 100%. You know what I mean? But with Villa in the conversation, if City aren't going to win the league, I would 100% much rather have Villa win the league because it's a better story overall for football. So yeah, so big up Villa for really sticking in the position that they've been in. So yeah, I do want to move on now to the Serie A. I don't want to make this video too long. I know I'm at like about 23 minutes or so already now, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up in like 3 to 5 minutes or something. But yeah, I at the same time as the Arsenal Manchester United match, I was watching Juventus Napoli, and I'm not gonna lie, the Arsenal match started like 30 minutes before the Juventus Napoli match. But once the Serie A match started, like I really couldn't take my eyes off of that match, like at all. I do genuinely think that the Serie A is the second best league in all of football. And this season in particularly, I feel like you can make a really good argument for the Serie A being the best league. At least this season. If you want to, maybe even, I would even argue maybe the past 3 seasons, that I think they can make a really strong argument with the Serie A being the best league in the world, right? But this season, I feel like they can make a really, really good case because there is a very tight title race as well, right? Napoli, in this match, even coming out of this match, sitting in 3rd place. If they won today, they needed to get a win today in order to go level on points with AC Milan, who sit in 2nd place. And AC Milan are about to play next against Roma. And if AC Milan win, they will, I think they'll go inside of like, they'll still stay 2nd, but they'll be 3 points behind 1st place Inter. So yeah, it's pretty tight in the Serie A race. Let me see here. Juventus, even with the win, they stay 4th place, but they go 1 point behind Napoli, who's in 3rd place. And Napoli has 43. Juventus now have 42. Roma level on points with Juventus as well at 42. So if Roma beat AC Milan, they will go. They'll go from 5th to 3rd place. My math was about to be off, but they would leapfrog over Napoli into third place. So it's really tight. It's a really entertaining, race in the Serie A this season, I would say. So, yeah, I thought the game was entertaining. Juventus beat Napoli 3-0. As soon as it went into 2-0, I kind of took my eyes off of it because, if I'm being completely honest, Napoli just were completely off the mark today. They didn't look strong at all. They didn't offer much going forward. It was all Juventus. Juventus were very dominant throughout the entire match. There was a moment in the first half where Buonanotte had an amazing goal line clearance for Napoli to prevent Juventus from going 2-0 up. But, even with Juventus being 1-0 up, you knew that the game was kind of, I don't want to say dead, but it was damn near dead at that point. And then the 2-0 that really put the game to bed because Napoli had nothing in it. But I do want to be fair to Napoli, though. Like, they do have a bunch of players out injured and suspended as well. Let's see, they have 7 players out injured. 7 key players out injured. And, of that, it includes KDB, Billy Gilmore, David Neres, Politano, Anguissa, who I think Anguissa is a very underrated player. But he is definitely, to me, in terms of like as a midfielder, I do think that he is. I think you can make an argument for him being like a top 10 midfielder in world football right now. So yeah, missing a lot of key players, and then they had 2 players out suspended through red cards in Marianucci and Ambrosino. So yeah, I think Napoli had a lot of key players missing today, so they didn't really have a lot to like kind of work with. Rasmus Højlund, to me, kind of today looked very poor and just really off of it. You know what I mean? But I do think that overall at Napoli, he's been playing really well, and his game has improved a lot. But Juventus were just way more dominant than they were today. Juventus also had a much stronger squad in general because, like, again, as I said, Napoli just had a lot of players out missing. But yeah, like I said, Milan are going to play next against Roma. That one's going to be a really good match. I am about to tune into that one. It starts as of recording, it's about to start in a couple minutes. So I'm not going to really make a video on that one. I'm more so just going to watch and, if I have time again in the future, I'll touch on the Serie A. But with my current schedule, I don't really have much time to watch a lot of football. So when I do watch football, it's mainly the Premier League. But I am a huge fan of the Serie A, and I do think that you can make a strong argument for it being the best league in the world. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. If you watched all the way through, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. So if you want to support me and everything, Arsenal looking like they really might be bottling the league. But, if you take a moment to kind of like cool down and look at the bigger picture, I think that they might be fine considering City's upcoming run of fixtures. So we'll see how everything goes. I'm hoping that they can bottle the league. The Arsenal banter has always been hilarious to me. You know what I mean? Watching the whole footballing community come together to really clown the hell out of Arsenal is something that I have always loved. And although I would like Arsenal to kind of like shut a lot of people up, I do want City to win the league. And you know what? Before I go, I'll say this. If I had to choose between, not winning the league, letting Arsenal win the league, but we still win a trophy at the end of the season, like, I would much rather win the Champions League this season than the Premier League. And I would be more than happy for Arsenal to win the league if it meant that City won the Champions League. I will say that. I don't know if that's a hot take. I doubt that a lot of City supporters will kind of share that sentiment. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say. But anyway, guys, I'll speak to you guys on the next one. Thanks again. Peace out.